Good morning, everyone. My name is Gail Snyder, and we're here today for activities for people living at home with dementia. I'm the Executive Director for Dementia Friendly Fort Worth, and this program is funded through grant funds from the University of North Texas Health Science Center. This is a recorded program, so if you do not wish to be included in the audio or the video, please keep your camera turned off and your video on mute. And today we're going to talk about birds and make a bird feeder. And we have for this session, Brooke Wood. Most of you know Brooke, and so I'm going to turn it over to her.
Hi everyone, my name is Brooke Wood. I am going to be showing you, like Gail said, how to make a little bird feeder. This is a little example of one I have using gelatin, bird seed, and string. That's really it. So it's pretty simple, and the fun thing about it that I realized whenever I was making these is birds don't judge you. It doesn't have to look pretty, but they turned out really cute. So I'm gonna share my screen with y'all really quick because I do have a couple of slides with different things. These are some birds we're gonna look at later. So, this is going to be similar to what we're looking at today. Can y'all see my screen? So this is going to be similar to what we're making today. This person used a cute little flower cookie cutter. I'm just going to be using mason jar lids, and the one cookie cutter that I have that's circular, but any cookie cutters y'all have would work perfectly fine. I'm also going to show y'all two different examples of things that you could use if you don't have gelatin or if you have different sorts of supplies. So this image that y'all can see on the left is actually a toilet paper roll or even a paper towel roll cut down. And what they did is they put peanut butter on the toilet paper roll and then sprinkled the bird seed on that. So if that is more something you're wanting to look at and you have supplies for, that is definitely an option that you can do. This person placed theirs just on a twig on the tree, but you can also put the ribbon through the paper towel holder or the toilet paper holder and then tie it onto the tree as well. This next picture that I have on the right for y'all is an orange that is cut in half. There's a little bit scooped out of the orange, and then they just placed the bird seed inside of that and then used what looks like either toothpicks or chopsticks to help make it more of a bowl so that it stays upwards, and then the string. I've also seen people that don't necessarily scoop out anything of the orange, and then they just line the orange in peanut butter and then dip that orange into the bird seed so that you can get that bird seed on top. So that's always an option if those are some supplies that you have available as well. But I'm going to stop showing my screen. I'm going to tilt my camera down a little bit so that y'all can see my counter. So we have unflavored gelatin that I'm going to be using. I got a value pack so that I can make more for y'all, but we would just be using, there's 4 packs in here that we're going to use for this recipe, and that equals about 28 grams. So if you do buy just a smaller unflavored gelatin, it'd probably be like the bigger box that's smaller. But that's what I'm using for here. And then I just went and bought a little bag of bird seed. This is a nut and berry bird seed, but any bird seed that you know your birds like that are out in your area would work perfectly fine. I did think that whenever I was making this, if it does have the smaller pieces to it, it would probably be a little bit better for the gelatin to hold together. And funny enough, it smells really good whenever you're mixing it in hot gelatin. the berries start getting very aromatic, and I thought that it smelled pretty tasty. So what I'm going to start off with is I have a bowl and a little scooper. This recipe called for 1 cup of chilled water. So I have my little Brita filter that's been in my refrigerator. So I'm going to put 1 cup of chilled water in here. And then I'm going to get my 4 packs of gelatin that I know I need. And it said to first use chilled water I'm not a Jello expert. I don't know why it calls for chilled water and then boiling water, but I'm sure it has to do with some sort of way that it helps the gelatin form a little bit better. So I'm just going to dump this in here. And I already have my simmering hot water on the stove behind me. You just need a cup of the hot water too, and so I have that going. And I'm gonna stir this up until it dissolves. Do y'all have any birds in y'all's areas that y'all like to be on the lookout for? That you love when you see them?
I like watching birds, but I have no idea what kind they are.
I'm not good at knowing what kind they are either, but my favorite bird to see is the little Cardinal, the red birds, because those are pretty.
Can you tilt your camera down just a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I'm just stirring up the gelatin in the cold water. It's now pretty dissolved. There's not a whole lot in here because there's just a cup of cold water. So now that that's dissolved, I'm going to take the hot water off of my stove. There's a cup in here, and I'm going to dump that in there. And so now we're just gonna stir up the hot water. And I can tell that it's dissolving a whole lot more now that it has hot water in it. And I can actually smell the gelatin too. But like I said, if y'all don't have gelatin, I know that unflavored gelatin isn't probably something a whole lot of people buy these days. But if you don't have this, you can always do the peanut butter option, because peanut butter, I know a lot of people have in stock at their house, as long as you have the bird seed as well. So that's all mixed together. Now, next thing we're gonna do is get the bird seed. So this recipe calls for about 2 cups of water and approximately 3 cups of bird seed. You do have to eye it a little bit. Yesterday, I did end up adding probably about a half a cup extra of bird seed just so that it wasn't so liquidy, but I'm gonna start off with the 3 cups right now and then see what it looks like. All right, so I have the 3 cups in there. And you just want to make sure that all your bird seed gets wet, not leaving any of the dry parts to it. Now with this, we are going to have to let it set up. It will need to set up a little bit. I put mine in the fridge last night because I thought Jello set up better in the fridge, or gelatin sets up better in the fridge. But you can leave it out as well. I had some extras that I didn't put into any cookie or mason jar lids, and it set up overnight. I cleaned it up this morning. I didn't just leave it out though. So my mixture right now, I can tell is still what I would say is a little bit soupy. The bird seeds mixed well in there. It's all wet and everything, but it's still a little bit soupy. So I'm just gonna eye it and add, I'm gonna start off with about a half cup and see what it looks like after that. But like I said earlier, you know, the nice thing is that the birds, they don't judge. So, you know, if it doesn't turn out perfect, they'll still just enjoy being fed, having something nice. All right, and I'm just gonna go ahead and add another half cup, and I think that should be good for now. Yep, looks like that'll be good. So now the mixture is a little bit more consistent. There is still a little bit of extra gelatin, but that'll be okay. That will mostly, so I have this little bird feeder I made yesterday here. It'll probably set more to the bottom, and this is the back side of it where it was laying down. And there is more gelatin on this side, but I think it acts kind of as a better glue to hold together so that your string just doesn't, rise up through the feeder. So I think that'll be good. What I also realized too is that if you have smaller size cookie cutters, for me, that worked a little bit better. So like I said, I was just using mostly mason jar lids. So I have different various sizes. I have a big one and I have a small one. And these smaller ones did seem to work a little bit better. I do have what I guess is kind of like a birdseed patty was from one of the bigger ones, and it was also thicker. But whenever I tried to put the string through this one, it did break off the top a little bit as well. So the ones that I found worked the best were my smaller ones, because these two were both smaller feeders that I had that the string worked perfectly fine in them. So now what I'm going to do is take my pan that I have over here, and I am going to put my little mason jar lids and my one cookie cutter down. And then what you're just gonna do is you're just gonna scoop it in and pack the lid. So you want it to be packed just so that there's not a whole lot of extra room, because if it's not very packed, you might have a harder time and it might fall apart a little bit more whenever you try to put the string in there. And I'm making a little bit of a mess, but I don't mind. It'll be okay.
Just like the grandkids.
I'm keeping my mess on the tray, so hopefully.
I don't see it going all over you yet,
All right, so that one's pretty good. And I know that a lot of birds, or not a lot, I know some birds don't eat off of the ground, but others do. So the ones that do end up breaking apart and stuff, I would just go ahead and throw them, kind of by your bird feeder on the ground so that they still have access to them. They just might not be hanging in a tree. Oh, that was a big scoop. Let me get a smaller scoop to pack this one in.
So do you put a hole in the center before?
So what I did, and I have seen it done different ways whenever I was looking up on Pinterest, some people will get straws and they'll put a piece of straw in there right now so that you have that hole automatically. What I did is I got a toothpick after they'd already set up overnight, and I took my little ribbon and I placed the toothpick kind of in the middle of the ribbon and then stuck it through to where it kind of sewed through. That worked really well for me. But if you have straws, I don't have straws laying around, but if you have straws, you can put those in there, or even if you wanted to put toothpicks in there right now, that would be fine too. Do any of y'all have bird feeders in y'all's yards?
I don't have a bird feeder, but we have a lot of birds that visit. I have a fence row that's covered in pyracantha bush.
Oh, okay.
Which is a bush that has thorns, but it produces berries.
Oh, okay.
Birds love the berries. Last spring, the birds came in and in one day cleaned all of the red berries off of the bushes and then left their evidence all over my sidewalk and my car. And the next time I took my car to get it washed, the auto mechanic said, "You haven't had your car washed in a really long time, have you?"
Oh, no.
Bother to go into the detail that it hadn't been that long. It was just that the birds had gorged themselves on my berries.
Oh, no.
And then left their residue all over the yard and my car.
Oh, man. Well, I think I have about packed these ones down just as much as I need to. And I could tell it's starting to set up a little bit, the gelatin, because my hands are getting sticky as well. And so this makes a lot of bird seed. I will tell you that. So if you do not want to make this much bird seed, you could probably even cut the recipe in half. So I ended up adding a total of 4 cups of bird seed with the 4 packages of gelatin for the recipe. But if you wanted to cut it in half and do the 2 packages of gelatin, which with water-wise, you would do just a cup of water to mix with that gelatin, and then the 2 cups of birdseed, that might be a lot more of a reasonable amount of bird seed that you make. So what I'm gonna do with these is I'm going to go ahead and I'm just gonna plop these in my fridge so that they can start cooling off, the gelatin can start setting up. This unfortunately is one of those activities where it's not like immediate gratification. Your birdseed still has to set up a little bit, but whenever it's all over, you'll end up with, you know, your nice little bird feeder. That picture that I showed y'all had a flower cookie cutter that they used. I saw other pictures where they used heart cookie cutters, and those turned out really cute. But my mason jar lids work pretty well too, I think. So yeah, you'll end up with these. I'm actually gonna gift these to people because I don't have a backyard. I live in an apartment. So I'm gonna be giving these to people, or maybe going around my apartment complex and putting them on the trees that are all hanging around and stuff. But I do have a few slides of some popular Texas birds that I was gonna share with y'all since we're doing some fun facts about birds. And we can kind of chat about those. So let me share my screen with y'all really quick. I should see the bird feeder again. All right, so this is the Texas state bird, the northern mockingbird. And a little fun fact about the northern mockingbirds is they have extraordinary vocal abilities and can sing up to 200 songs, including songs of other birds. I also saw in this fact that it was even other like insects that they could sing songs of, which I don't really know how that would work, but I thought it was interesting. And that's our state bird. So cute little guy. And then this one is, you have a lot of those?
Uh-huh.
Oh, this one is the northern cardinal. It is probably one of my favorites. I just think it's really pretty. My grandma used to have a saying whenever we were little that if you saw red birds, that means you were getting lots of money. So every time we saw red birds whenever I was really young, I would go tell her I need some money because I saw one. I thought she was the bank. So, so this is the northern cardinal. And a fun fact about these birds is that they are monogamous and they will mate for life. So they have, you know, a partner that they stick with. So I think that these are really pretty birds. I also think it's kind of interesting how the feathers on top of their head kind of stand up like a cone. Makes them kind of interesting. They're pretty though. And then this is probably one that the people like the looks of, but maybe not the sounds of. This is the red-headed woodpecker. So these ones will probably go and peck your trees a lot and cause maybe some sounds that when you're trying to sleep, you don't want to hear. But 1/3 of their diets are animal material, such as insects, and 2/3 are plant material, such as the fruits, nuts, and seeds. So I guess whenever they're, you know, pecking at the trees, they're really trying to get for the insects, not, you know, the wood itself. But I think these are really pretty ones too. I really like not only their red head, but I like how their wings and stuff are like that black and white. The stripes are almost just so perfect that, I mean, it's crazy how, you know, animals have these pretty little diagrams. And actually, now that I'm looking at this picture down here, I don't know if y'all can see my little cursor, but there's like some little dots on them. So that's kind of interesting too. It's not just lines. They have some feathers with some dots, so that's pretty. And then this one's another really pretty bird that I like, the blue jay. So it has a wingspan of 13 to 17 inches. So for a little bird, that's a kind of big wingspan, and can fly up to 20 to 25 miles per hour. So I also think for a little bird that's pretty fast. I also read that they have a really long lifespan for birds. I don't know what the normal lifespan for birds is, but the blue jay, they said, can live about 7 years in the wild. So that's pretty interesting. I think this one's really pretty though. I like the color on him a lot too.
So sometimes blue jays can be aggressive.
I did read that. Have you had an experience with a blue jay being aggressive or heard of an experience?
We've seen some in our yard that they're aggressive towards some of the other birds.
Wow. Huh. Yeah, I guess maybe we don't want to get around them, but just watch them with the binoculars from a distance. And then this one I thought was another cute one. It was a great horned owl. So great horned owls are one of the heaviest owls, and they are the second largest owls in North America, but in South America are the largest owls. And I think they call them the horned owls because they have like what looks to me like their ears, but those are actually the horns on top of their head, make them do that. And I thought this was a cute picture because the owl looks like it's speaking. So I don't see a whole lot of owls, but I assume that's because they're nocturnal animals and I like to sleep at night. So I don't know if y'all have a lot of owls in the area. I know I've seen them sometimes whenever I'm out in the country a little bit more. I haven't seen them as much out in the city, but I don't know if y'all have owls where any of you live. But those are some of the birds that I wanted to talk about with y'all. So those are birds that I looked up specifically can be seen in kind of this DFW area or have been known to be seen in this area. So be on the lookout. Y'all might see some of those birds. But other than that, I would probably say if you make these bird feeders, you could probably leave them for 2 hours or so in the fridge and then go check on them. If they come out of the mold pretty easily, then they're ready to go. But if they look like they're going to start falling apart on you, I'd probably leave them for a little bit longer, another hour or two, until they kind of just like fall out of that mold just in that one piece. And then you can either get your toothpicks, or if you already had a straw in there, you can remove that, or get your toothpick and make the little hole and then string your ribbon through it as well. That's what I have for y'all. So do y'all have any questions or anything like that for me? Awesome.
I see a lot of smaller birds in around our house. They're mostly tiny little things.
Yeah, I like you said, I think earlier, I don't know what all of the birds are called, but I know which ones you're talking about. They're like almost really, really small, just like an inch or two. And sometimes I've seen them even like play in dirt, like take a dirt bath and stuff as well. So I don't know if they're the same birds. Funny story, I used to ride horses a lot. I rodeoed back in the day. And I was riding one of my horses in an arena, and I didn't see them because they were so small, but those small little birds were at the end of the arena. And there's probably about 100 of them there, and they were all taking a dirt bath, but they all blended in with the dirt, and I didn't see them. So whenever I started riding up towards them, all of the birds flew up in the air, scared my horse half to death, and if you can imagine, in the end of the day, I got bucked off. So that's my bird story. I guess watch your surroundings. Make sure that if you're riding any animals, that the birds don't scare them, because that wasn't any fun. But that's my little bird story.
We have a lot of blackberry bushes, and we have to be careful because we like the blackberries, but so do the birds.
Yeah.
So I have to go out and harvest the blackberries all the time. And even then, the birds will get some of them.
Yeah.
So
like Gail said, you might end up with the aftermath of it.
What was that, Gail?
I said, do you get enough blackberries to make a pie?
Oh, we get enough blackberries to eat it. We have quarts and quarts of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
great. They were at the house when we moved in, and so they just continue to grow and grow.
That's awesome. I like the cobbler that comes with it and the pie. I like all the desserts you can make with the blackberries.
Yes.
Well,
and blackberry jelly.
Yeah, blackberries are good for people with dementia. They help the brain start thinking a little bit more, and so that's why I like them. Eat them a lot. I like that.
Yeah.
So just harvest them, rinse them off, and have them ready to eat whenever you want a snack.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Good with ice cream.
Yeah, yes. There you go. That's a good idea too. I like how they're all dessert things.
Yeah.
They're also really good with angel food cake.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Ooh. I haven't tried
Absolutely.
with that.
So our family does an alternate version. Most people eat what they call strawberry shortcake, and they either use angel food cake or pound cake.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband is from Missouri, and they use pie crust with their berries. And so we call it berries and pie crust. And mostly do strawberries. But a couple of weeks ago, we had lunch with my daughter and her family, and I did a mixture of berries. So I had strawberries and blueberries and blackberries. And you put a little bit of sugar on it to help it make a little bit of syrup-like, and then put that over the pie crust. And so the pie crust still has a little bit of crunch to it, and it's really good.
Wow. That does sound very good.
And it's a really easy summer dessert.
Yeah.
I've had it where it's been more of a sweet biscuit.
Mm-hmm.
They made a biscuit out of it, a little bit more sweeter, and they've used that rather than the cake and the pie crust.
Well,
I had the pie crust too, you know.
Yeah. Well, my pie crust does have a little bit of sugar in it. And you can just like bake the pie crust in strips, or turn the pie pan upside down and bake it on the underside of the pie pan. Yeah. And then just break it in pieces. And
put a little bit of cinnamon on it.
Y'all are making me hungry.
and I like it with whipped cream.
Yeah.
So that's another fun way to use berries.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry about talking about the food. Oh, sorry, you know,
No, I like it. Y'all are making me hungry though.
We're food people.
In my previous house, we had a huge fig tree, and we had the same issue. If we wanted the figs, we had to make sure to get them before the birds did.
Well, we've tried to grow tomatoes in our yard, and the birds and the rabbits like the tomatoes. And so once the tomatoes get on the plants, I have to put netting over the tomato plants, or they peck the tomatoes until they're not worth having.
Wow.
So we've got some tomato plants out this year.
Go ahead. We planted a garden one time, and, you know, with fruits and vegetables and things into it. And we thought it was birds and rabbits, but our dog was going out and eating it. The dog would go out and eat the cantaloupe and other things, and you know, so we put a fence around it, and the dog was really mad. So we put that fence around the garden.
That's funny.
Well, we don't have a dog, but we have a lot of rabbits in the spring that come from other yards.
Yeah, we have a lot of rabbits here.
Even some of our plants that don't have fruit or vegetables on them, they would eat the flowers, because they're like, we had this one bush that had red flowers that was low to the ground, and the rabbits picked all of the flowers and all of the leaves off of the bush.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. Very
we have a lot of rabbits, and you know, every spring there's little families of rabbits, you know, and they're just all over the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way to get rid of them. We've got kind of some open fields around, or used to have. They're kind of building into them now, and as they build into them, the rabbits come closer more and more, you know, into our area. They're getting away from the building. But you know, I don't mind them. Some people don't like it because they do eat, you know, eat the vegetation and things like that. But they eat the fence, the bottom of the fence, to go through the fences, you know, those little holes type of thing. But doesn't bother me, you know. They're kind of fun. They're cute, as long as you don't go and try and pick them up.
Yeah. As long as you get to the vegetables you want before they do.
Yep, that's right. That's right. Yeah. They don't bother my blackberries, because the blackberries are usually higher up. But,
right.
Well, some of the bushes get so thick they will bend down almost to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
You know? Yeah. I have to be very careful. Make sure I get them.
When our kids were little, my husband worked with a gentleman that had just these big hedges that were so big he had to trim around them with a tractor. And if you wanted to pick the berries at the top, you would have to have a really tall ladder. And in 30 minutes, you could have a bucket full of blackberries. And the kids used to love to go and pick blackberries. And then we'd take them home and have berries and pie crust, and also put them in the freezer so we could have them for later.
Yeah, that was about the house when we moved in. The people had planted a lot of different varieties of things. We kept the blackberries. I cut down the persimmon tree because it was such a mess. You know, if you don't use persimmons, they just make a mess every place. We kept the apple tree. You get little apples.
Do you get apples?
You get little green apples. You know, probably about the size of a small orange sometimes.
Okay.
A little bit smaller.
Size maybe?
Was that?
A tennis
ball? Not quite
ball
tennis
maybe?
ball. Not quite, a little bit smaller than a tennis ball.
Okay.
You know? But they're pretty good, you know, and a little bit smaller sometimes, depending on it. But they're pretty good tasting. Yeah.
More like tangerine or clementine size?
Yeah, more like that size, you know. Of course, they're green apples, so they're not sweet.
But they make good pies.
They do, yes, yeah.
Or cooked apples.
Yep.
My husband likes apples with certain meals that I make, where you cook the apples with a little bit of Crisco and some sugar and a little bit of salt, and you cook them till they start to get sticky. And he likes that as a side dish with a meal. So, but I don't make them as often as he likes. In fact, a couple weeks ago, I bought apples because I usually use a mixture of apples to do that. And I bought the apples, and at dinner time, I keep forgetting that I need to make apples. So I need to do that tonight before I have to throw those apples out.
There you go.
Use a mixture of them, and you slice them really thin so they cook through. And when the Crisco helps it to make it get kind of sticky, and they brown just a little bit, and they're a little bit sweet, but not terribly sweet. So another way to use apples besides in a pie.
There you go.
That's right.
Great.
My wife uses it. She takes sweet potatoes and dices them up and dices up apples and makes a sweet potato hash with apples.
Oh, wow.
Oh, interesting.
Really good. Yeah, it's really good. Because it's just sweet potatoes and the apples together. The sweetness of the apple and the sweet potato just kind of mixed together. It's really good flavor.
Right.
I have a recipe that mixes sweet potatoes with pineapple. It's really good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I bet that's good because my family has always done sweet potatoes at Thanksgiving, and we add brown sugar and pineapple and pecans and then put some marshmallows on the top and bake it until the sweet potatoes are tender. So
they like the gooey stuff.
Sounds good.
You like the gooey stuff, right?
Yeah. Can you tell I have a sweet tooth?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, I think we're just about out of time for today. We're so glad that all of you have joined us today. And I want to tell you real quick what's coming up tomorrow.
Thank you for showing us the bird feeder.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank y'all for your time.
So tomorrow we have a brand new presenter, and we will be doing sceneries on canvas with Dee Moland from James L. West. So be sure to join us tomorrow at 10:30.
Thank you.
Thank
Y'all
you.
have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.